The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. The Passover of the Jews was near, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and the money changers seated at their tables. Making a whip of cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and both the sheep and the cattle. He also poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. He told those who were selling the doves, "Take these things out of here. Stop making my Father's house a marketplace." His disciples remembered that it was written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." The Jews then said to him, "What sign can you show us for doing this?" Jesus answered them, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." The Jews said, "This temple has been under construction for 46 years, and you will raise it up in 3 days?" But he was speaking of the temple of his body. After he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this, and they believed the scripture and the word that Jesus had spoken. When Jesus was in Jerusalem during the Passover festival, many believed in his name because they saw the signs that he was doing. But Jesus, on his part, would not entrust himself to them because he knew all people and needed no one to testify about anyone, for he himself knew what was in everyone. The Gospel of the Lord. I believe the scriptures this morning focus on justice. In the first reading, the Ten Commandments, God really wants to make sure we treat one another justly and treat him justly because he treats us justly. He respects us, believe it or not, even though we're all sinners, and wants us to respect one another and treat one another as equals. And in the gospel, I won't go into a long background of this, but it seems that in the temple, it was kind of the icon of how the system was cheating people and oppressing people through the sacrifice, through the money changers, and so Jesus said, "Enough of this," and threw them all out in quite a show of anger. But I need to talk to you about something else this morning. Did you all get a little package from the bishop? I can hear. Some of you did. This was just put in the mail on Friday, and it got there yesterday, right? Some of you got it. Some of you may not have. How many of you got it? Mail's really efficient. Okay. So, did any of you go into cardiac arrest? I thought so. That's why we need to talk about this. And I got notes here, so I don't forget anything. I usually don't use notes, but I got them today. And we may have a little time at the end to see if you got any questions, so think about that. This stewardship drive that was announced here, we've been talking about a little bit in the past and praying about. It's a diocesan thing. It's all the dioceses doing this. All the parishes are doing this. Most dioceses have done this before, many times. This is the first time for us. It's different from the CPC, which is to take care of the ordinary needs of the diocese. This is for extraordinary stuff. This is a capital campaign. So it's a 3-year drive, and hopefully we'll be able to take it in good stride. The goal for the diocese is $22 million. Half comes to the parish, half goes to the diocese. The goal for All Saints Parish is $706,052. That's 1 year's collection several years back. That's what they based it on. If we reach that goal to the penny, then we will have $350,000 to spend on stuff we need to do around here. If we fall short, we do not have to make up the difference. That's different than the CPC, because with CPC, you have to make up the difference. It's an assessment. This is just a goal. If we don't make it, we still get half, the diocese gets half. If we go over the goal, the excess, we keep 80%, and the diocese gets 20%. If we go over 125% of the goal, then all the excess comes to us. So that's our goal, right? To go over the goal by 125%. All right. We're in wave 4. Most parishes have done this already. We're in wave 4. We're the last one. We're put there probably because we were a part of a merger, and that's how that was arranged. The diocesan portion is $11 million. $3 million goes for priests' education and seminarians especially. I've told you before that we have now 1/3 the number of priests we had in 1970. 1/3 are left. And I keep a chart. I do a bar graph, and I put a new bar in every 5 years. And it's very consistent. It's going down steadily. And my projection is in the year 2037, we'll have 1 priest left in the whole diocese in 12 counties. And I'll be 99. I've told you that before, but okay. So this money will not get us more priests, but it might help us recruit better, but it also give us the money to be able to educate people if they do come forward and want to be trained to be a priest. $3 million goes for Catholic education and faith formation, and that's always important because Catholic education is important. $3 million goes for social outreach because they have some great new ideas to bring people out of poverty, and this will get that kicked off. $1 million goes because the diocesan facilities are getting old and need revamping, and $1 million is the campaign costs, and that's out of the diocesan portion. The parish portion. We have 2 campuses. St. Joe is in pretty good shape, really. The school building there has been sold, which we only got $10 for it, but it saved us $150,000 or so that we would have to have spent to demolish the place. It's being revised. It's being what's the word I want? Renovated. Thank you. You got to help me out. It's being renovated into affordable housing, and so that will be great for many, many people. I think there's going to be about 45 apartments, and that should be ready in the fall. Also, the convent is being rented out to CAPE, Community Action Program of Evansville, so that's taken care of. The parking lot to the west side of church, where the rectory once stood before I arrived on the scene, will be repaved free by the contractor doing the school as soon as the city okays it. And the parking lot to the north side of the school building has already been repaved. It needs to be finished off yet, but it will provide parking for lots more people after they stripe it and all that. In the meantime, you can still park on it. Here at St. Anthony, our problem is that we have lots of buildings that we're using for purposes that they were not meant for. The house next door where I live, I used to live there alone in that great big old house. Now we have Father Steve Linsnick living there, and Tom Bogenschutz, our pastor, our director of ministries, and so that's nice. But still, it's a lot of empty space over there. It's a beautiful building that we need to use better in conjunction with our parish. It was built in 1873 as a family home, and so it's not quite suiting our purposes. The school building was built as a school, and it needs lots of work. We need to do, for one thing, the restrooms are just atrocious, and we could use more restrooms here in church. And so we're looking at all this and doing a master plan. We've hired an architect to look at this and see how we can put all these buildings, bring them up to speed so they fit our mission and work well together. So we're still working on that master plan. And we'll let you know when we got it together. and show you what we have. It's not easy because we're kind of boxed in here. And so it's not going to be perfect, but hopefully it will be good. And I want to make sure it's done right, because I don't want us to do something now or next year and 5 years or 10 years down the road say, oh, I wish we'd thought about it back then, back in 2018. I want to think about it now, plan it out well, so we don't make too many mistakes. So, and this 350,000 will not get us all this, but it will get us started on getting close to our master plan, I hope. Now, if you already received this, you saw what the diocesan plan is about. You had a letter from Bishop Siegel. This plan was started by Bishop, what's his name? Joe. Chuck. Charles. Charles Thompson. And now you got a letter from Bishop Siegel, so he inherited this. If you read the letter, I talked to somebody yesterday that didn't read the letter. If you read the letter, you will see that there's a dollar amount suggested for you. And that's what probably threw you into atrial fibrillation or some sort of cardiac arrest or whatever. Let me tell you, this is how I understand how they got to this point. It's not my formula, it's the fundraiser's formula. What they did was say that what we're supposed to be doing as Christians is really appreciating all that God has given us. It's pretty magnificent. And giving 10% back because we realize that it comes from God, and to prove to ourselves that we really believe that, to prove to ourselves that we really believe that, we give 10% back to God. 5% goes to the parish, 1% to CPC, Catholic Parishes Campaign, and the other 4% to other charities. Now, if you do that, then the goal that's in that letter is wrong. We shouldn't be charging, you shouldn't have any goal, because you're giving what you can give right already. You might want to give more, but you're giving. And so when you get your pledge card, if you're tithing, just write on there, I tithe. And thank you very much. And we apologize for giving you heart failure. But they also believe that there may be some people who don't tithe. And so this is kind of a kickstart to get you back into the rhythm of things here. And so that's how they arrived at that goal. I know it's a shock. I got my letter a year or so ago, and all the priests in the diocese have a goal of $10,000 each. I kind of took my breath away, but I've managed to pay 75% of that so far and hope to pay off the rest soon. So, and this is a 3-year kind of thing, so don't put it all in once, unless you can do it, but usually we spread this over 3 years because that way you can afford to do what we need to do. But I would ask that you just pray about this. Pray that, talk to God. Tell him you're shocked. Tell him you're upset. But then say, now what do you want me to do? It would be good if God had been talking to the fund people and said, I've been looking at their checking accounts and their investments and all those things that they have their money in, and here's what you need to ask each one. But God doesn't do that, unfortunately. He leaves it up to whoever sort of has some expertise to try to figure out a guesstimate of what's the best. So you have to talk to God and say, this is disrupting in my life, but tell me what you want, what you think I should give, how I can show best that I really do believe that everything I have comes from you, and I want to demonstrate that by my gift. Now, I ask that you make this over and above your regular collection and over and above your CPC, so don't take it out of there, okay? Make it a 3-year pledge and pray real hard that you know what your proper gift should be, and then make the gift. You will receive your pledge card eventually. Let's just take a few minutes now to pray. Talk to the Lord. Tell him how you feel about all this. Wait, I said I might have some questions. You got any questions? Almost forgot. I brought my microphone. Anybody have any questions? Nancy?
I was wondering if it was taken into consideration how many responsibilities people have.
Nobody knows.
Okay.
Talk to God and say, here are my responsibilities.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, because things change
Sure,
all the time.
sure.
Okay.
Talk to him. See what he says. Thank you. Yeah, that goal that was mentioned in your letter was a goal. And you have to say, wait a minute. We got to figure this and this and this and this. So, does that make sense? Who else has any questions?
I have
A comment.
And if we, like you pledged your $10,000 and then you lose your job tomorrow.
I lose my job?
Well, not you, but what do you do then?
If you make your pledge of $10,000 and lose your job, if I lose my job, my job's pretty safe. Okay, if you make a pledge, then you're only giving so much at a time. So you change it, stop, whatever, when you lose your job. I don't know if you can go to the bishop and say, I want my money back. A couple times I made that promise on the Sunday collection. I said, if you tithe and something happens and you need your money back, I'll give you your money back. I did have one person get their money back. It happens. So you can, does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions, comments? Fred, you should have sat over here. You weren't prepared for this.
This isn't really a question. You made me think of this. Making a pledge and then losing your job. It happened to me. It happened to me. But I'm telling you what, if you're faithful to God, He'll be faithful to you. It was within a month, Me Johnson had made me a job offer, and we came to Evansville. And nothing you do for God is ever wasted.
Wow. Thank you. Woo. God provided Fred this morning. Didn't plan on that at all. Thank you, Fred. Who else has a comment or a question? Okay, I won't prolong this. I'll be around afterwards, and the team will be around if you have any questions. I don't know all the answers, but if I do, I'll tell you. If I don't, I'll try to find out. Okay? All right. So let's just take some time to pray and talk to God about all this and ask God what God wants of you.